Hello everyone, thanks for coming to the session on running multi-terabyte SAP HANA infrastructure on Azure. Can everyone hear me okay? Is that good? Louder? Okay, all right, let's get started. So thank you again for coming to the session. So we have a full packed session with a couple of other guest speakers as well. So my name is Naga Surendran. I'm in the product marketing team as part of Azure, focused on SAP on Azure. We have I have a couple of other great speakers with me. Hello. Okay, I'll keep going. Madan heads up the product on the SAP on Azure side, both from the roadmap perspective as well as the infrastructure perspective. So he's a product lead on the Azure Compute. So he'll go through some tech and demos and our infrastructure details. And then we have a very special guest, Dan Kerner from Accenture, a fantastic customer and partner for us. Some of you might have heard Andrew Wilson, the CEO of Accenture, in Jason Zander's general session a couple of days back. Accenture is on a digital transformation journey, and 80% of their enterprise applications are already in the cloud. And Dan will take you through sort of the front lines of their digital transformation with BW on HANA and Azure. So you don't want to miss that. All right, so just to level set, I know most of you are probably pretty familiar with SAP HANA. Just I thought I will quickly recap for the, in case there are folks who might need a quick intro. So this is a database that was introduced by SAP in 2011. It's primarily an in-memory database that runs in RAM instead of using disks. And then the fact that it also stores data primarily in a column store instead of a row store enables it to compress data pretty effectively. And the combination of sort of the column store and being in RAM gives you the performance boost for HANA. And SAP also announced this is going to be the only supported database for all the new SAP products such as S4 HANA and BW for HANA. And it also allows running multi-tenant mode with OLTP and OLAP because of the fact that it can do column store and row store. And lastly, SAP certifies the hardware that HANA runs on. So that's critical for you to kind of know. So we'll talk about the certification process and how we take our infrastructure through that. So, and in terms of benefits as to why HANA, a lot of SAP customers are looking at HANA for these reasons. And we will have some demos that show you some of these in action. If you look at queries generally that in traditional environments might take hours or that take seconds on HANA. So that's really, if you take one query at seconds and if you're running a large report, that kind of adds up. So no longer do you have to wait for batch processing. Instead, you can run real-time query and also sort of a self-service BI and drill down and things like that. Also, we see customers taking advantage of HANA for business suite by just moving to HANA without disrupting their business process, but just getting the speed of in-memory with HANA. You also see customers sort of doing a sidecar approach where they take specific SAP modules that might have a large data volume and then moving that to HANA instead of moving the entire ERP or BW environment. And with S4 HANA, what SAP has done is they've not only used HANA, they also simplified the business processes. So if in the ECC world or business suite world, if you have 28 tables, it could be down to 3 or 4. So they've simplified the business process on S4. And some customers also use HANA as a high performance data analytics platform. HANA can be used as a standalone database for big data analytics as well. So just, from a SAP and Microsoft alliance, it's been a deep partnership between these two big industry leaders, if you will. So Microsoft on the productivity side and enterprise applications, and SAP on the enterprise software and business processes. So it goes a long way back. If you see some of the timelines here, all the way back to Bill Gates and Hasso Plattner, who is the co-founder of SAP, meeting back in like the late 80s and figuring out how our two companies can start to work. And then 93, there was a technology agreement to work together. And subsequently, Microsoft in the mid 90s, I would say, became a SAP customer. So we have been running SAP for 20 plus years. So we understand both as a partner as well as a customer. And then if you look at SQL Server, has been a very strong database for SAP customers right from the 90s timeframe. And every single release of SQL Server, we have certified, and we have been SAP has been launch partner for many releases. And Office is a very critical component for SAP as well. And if you look at it, Office was announced as a native SAP UI, and many of you probably use Excel very heavily along with your SAP data. So that's sort of critical, and we built in add-ins for Outlook as well as Excel to make your data access seamless. Yeah, so last year at Sapphire, Satya Nadella got together with Bill McDermott, kind of renewed our partnership in the context of the cloud transformation for both of our customers. So we have been working with SAP from the Azure side for the past few years. I would say Netweaver, we've been running Netweaver on Azure since 2014. And last year we also have SAP HANA certification with our large instance, so we'll go deep into that. So kind of, the partnership continues for our joint customers to enable digital transformation. Just to add a few more points about it, in terms of the joint customers, many of you probably know, so we share sort of very similar customer base on the enterprise ecosystem as well as partner ecosystem. So Microsoft's got a large partner ecosystem focused on enterprise, and similarly SAP. So we jointly go to market with these partners. And we talked about also from a product capability perspective, we have integrated support. So wherever you open the case, whether it's on the SAP side or on the Azure side, we seamlessly hand off, and we have embedded teams on both sides. Similarly, on the innovation side, we have engineers sitting in Waldorf in Germany, working with the SAP teams, whether it's SAP Cloud Platform or single sign-on or Azure integration. So we have that depth of integration from a co-innovation. So when it comes to HANA, looking at after talking to a lot of customers and understanding their needs, we have this very differentiated strategy compared to the other cloud providers. So we have HANA certified virtual machines that can go up to 4 terabytes, particularly with our newly announced M series. And when the hypervisor limit, that's where it can take you today. We also know that there are customers who have larger databases beyond that, 5, 20 terabytes. So we have a purpose-built bare metal instance. We call it HANA large instances. You can go up to 20 terabyte on a single node and up to 60 terabytes in a scale-out configuration for BW as well as S4. So just getting into a little bit of the details of the virtual machines itself, what I'm showing here is sort of the set of virtual machines that are certified for SAP workloads. But of course, Azure has a wide variety of virtual machines, all the way from sort of dev test workloads to GPUs, and of course, including HANA. If you look at our A series and DV2, those are our Netweaver certified instances. You also can, we also have 2 new virtual machine instances, DV3 and EV3. Those are more compute and memory optimized. If you look at the number of CPUs and memory on the EV3, it goes up to close to half a terabyte, if you will. And we also have G series, which is SAP HANA certified. We have customers using it for a variety of things in terms of dev test, POC, and some smaller production workloads as well. And then if you look at the next one, which is M series, that is in the works in terms of certification. that can go up to 4 terabyte and on memory, and it's got 128 virtual CPUs. So it's really a beefy virtual machine that can run HANA really well, and we have run some tests, and we've seen some amazing performance out of that. And then the next one is the HANA large instance, which is purpose-built. It's bare metal, so obviously it's got super high performance, and it enables us. We have jointly co-engineered this with SAP, and Madan will take you a little bit deeper on the different SKUs that we have. And so you have options all the way from 1 terabyte to 20 terabyte in terms of scale-up options. We also just announced Azure Reserve VM instances at Ignite just a few days back. I wanted you to be aware of it. There are some fantastic savings here especially for running virtual machines. You can look at all the way 1-year commitment or a 3-year commitment. It's easy to purchase and set up. At the same time, you have the flexibility to exchange or cancel, so we are not making it onerous for our customers. And if you use Windows Server with Azure Hybrid use benefit for Netweaver workloads, you can go up to 80% savings on this. So this is launching by the end of this year, but we just announced it. If you go to azure.com and look for Reserve VM instances, there is a form. If you want to know more details, you can sign up and get notified when it's available. So with that, I'm going to have Madan come up here and talk a little bit more deeper on the SAP certified infrastructure that on the virtual machines and large instances. Madan?
Thanks, Naga. Can you guys hear me? Loud? How was lunch? Good? Not good. Yeah, conference lunches, what can I say? So how many of you using HANA today? HANA on-prem, on-premises, if you will. Considering running in cloud, HANA? Already running in cloud? The few rebellious ones, including Andrew and Dan, who are leading the charge. So yeah, I know you're going to have a great story from Dan on how Accenture IT went through this journey. So you can hear. So before I go deep dive, I wanted to kind of get a sense on where. So a lot of interest in HANA. As Naga talked about, HANA is a very promising product from SAP, and we are committed from an Azure point of view to provide the greatest and the most robust infrastructure possible, right? Because it's a pretty demanding workload. How many of you attended Jason Zander's keynote? Because we had a bit of a deep dive there too. So we'll kind of revisit some of the demos. Andrew was in the keynote as well. So I'll just take a quick lap, around the capabilities we have from an infrastructure point of view. The key takeaway from this eye chart is basically you have unlimited headroom, right? That's basically what I want to convey, right? We have a good dozen SKUs, a dozen type machine sizes. But at the end of the day, what that means to you is you have this incremental headroom. You can start from the smallest size that is certified, and you can go all the way up to 20 terabytes of RAM in a single machine today, right? And we'll continue to push those boundaries. And as Naga said, it's a mix of virtual machines and bare metal purpose-built instances. So, the last thing that you want from your provider is to find out that you have a ceiling that you're working towards and you have to migrate to another provider, right? You don't want that. We definitely don't want that in Azure. So which is why we are investing in creating that unlimited headroom for you. So whatever HANA workload brings for you, whether it's mission critical or you're just starting your journey, greenfield, brownfield, migration, it doesn't matter, right? Azure is the most robust infrastructure that is available. So let me walk through. So as I mentioned, there is 2 types of machines, the virtual machine sizes. As you see, G, E, and then M series. I'll talk a little bit about M series. And then the large instances, which are purpose-built. These are physical bare metal instances certified for HANA, all the way from 768 gigs of RAM to 20 terabytes of RAM, and up to 960 processors. I mean, this is just a gigantic machine. So M series. So what is this? M series is our latest generation SKU. It goes up to 128 virtual CPUs inside the virtual machine as a guest. and we offer it in 4 SKU formats, right. You got a 1 terabyte SKU with 64 virtual CPUs, a 1.75 terabyte SKU with 64 virtual CPUs, and then you have 2 128 CPU versions, with a 2 and a 4 terabyte option. And as you can see, you will have local SSDs, you will have extremely high throughput in terms of network, and also availability information is in the slide. The key thing to understand here is this has hyper-threading support, right. So if you're running 128 virtual CPUs, it's actually hyper-threaded CPUs. It's running Intel Xeon 8890 V3. These are Broadwell based, and as we go through our virtual machine generations, you will see us go into the next generations of Intel processors. They're using high performance DDR4. So if you are not into any of the speeds and feeds, the net takeaway is it's great for HANA, it's certified for HANA. You should be able to kind of confidently run your HANA workload in a virtual machine construct. Obviously, because this is a virtual machine, you can spin them up when you need it, you can spin them down when you don't need it, and you pay for the minute, right. So great for dev test, great for getting started on HANA, and if you want to run production, that's fine too, right. With the reserved instances VM offering that Naga talked about, you get up to 80% discount, right, especially if you combine the Azure hybrid use benefit. A little bit about storage. As you know, Azure has 2 types of storage, standard and premium. Premium is what we recommend for SAP HANA. This is absolutely a mission critical database product, so you want to run with premium. And you get up to 7,500 IOPS per disk, and you can attach many disks. You can attach up to 64 disks, and Azure is also working on supporting a 4 terabyte disk option. So lots and lots of storage for what you need in terms of HANA. And then 250 Mbps disk from a storage throughput point of view. So we recommend using managed disks, managed premium disks to be specific, enable encryption by default, and then ability to kind of take snapshots, right? Typical database configuration. So a little bit about managed disks. This is a recently available offering. It's been in GA probably for about 8 months. The idea behind managed disks is we take away the operational complexity of you having to kind of allocate storage accounts, right? You just attach away the premium managed disks that you need to your virtual machine as much as your HANA database wants, and we will take care of all the operational complexity of creating a storage account and naming it the right way and scaling out and scaling in. So it's all something that Azure will take care of. So again, premium managed disks, M series, that's basically the combination you want to go after. Last but not the least, M series from a networking point of view, it has the fastest VM to VM bandwidth. As Naga mentioned, some of the tests that we are running for SAP HANA, we are seeing incredible performance. And you'll see us once we publish these results, it will be probably the best in the industry in terms of a 4-socket performance. So 30 gigabit Gbps from a VM to VM bandwidth point of view. So works great, works fantastic if you're using HANA system replication, which is what SAP HANA would recommend at the application layer for your high availability. So again, optimize, fine tune for HANA. Right. A little bit about VM availability, which is obviously important if you are running your line of business application with SAP HANA in Azure M series. You want to make sure you are picking the right availability option, and we have 4 options in Azure. We announced the brand new availability zones, which is the 3rd option, but I can walk through quickly all the different options. Single instance is basically you are running a single virtual machine, maybe M series with SAP HANA. We don't recommend that, even though you get an availability SLA, a single instance availability SLA. Because SAP has its own high availability at the application layer, you want to run in an availability set or an availability zone configuration, or probably a combination of both, right? Availability set, it protects you from failures within a given zone. Availability zones, if you spread them across availability zones, you get protection, zonal failure protection. So, if one zone fails, you have the other zone that's still up. And then we also have this notion of region pairs, very differentiated in Azure. The other cloud providers don't have it, where say for example, you're in US or you're in Australia or UK, we always go with the region pair concept. So you would have a north and a south or a west and a east. SAP HANA, if you're running a mission critical application, maybe a reporting application, you always want to kind of make sure that you have the disaster recovery component figured in, right? You have HANA system replication configured for asynchronous. So you will have 2 locations, you will have your primary set of nodes running in one location, and then disaster recovery paired up in the other location. So anyway, so you got the best of the world combinations in terms of availability options. So let me kind of go through a quick demo. Let me make sure my machine is booted up. Okay. Connect to my machine here. There we go. So what I have here, so let me kind of browse around to the portal. So as you see here, if you folks were attending Jason's keynote, this was the setup that we showed where Mark walked through an end-to-end workflow, right? How to spin up virtual machines faster, how to kind of get the availability and the monitoring views in the dashboard very nicely. What I'm going to show here is a quick view of M series, which I just talked about. So I go browse through my virtual machines. This is a typical SAP landscape, all in the virtual machine land. So you can see I've got a bunch of virtual machines here, all set up for our Ignite demos. Specifically, I want to kind of call out this particular virtual machine, which is called SAP on Azure. Can everyone see the screen? Maybe if it's a little smaller, I can kind of make it big. Can everyone see the screen? Okay. So you will see here, let me see if I can zoom as well. This one is running 64 vCPUs and 1 gig, 1 terabyte. So one of the nice benefits of running in Azure virtual machines is you can resize, right? Say you have your HANA system running here. It's actually very simple. I just have to go to size. I can pick, in this case, let's say I'm picking up the 2 terabyte option, right? 128 virtual CPUs and 2 terabytes. Pick this, do a select, and that's it. Basically, your entire application, it's staying intact. You'll kind of go through a graceful shutdown. It will kind of bring back the same virtual machine with the same characteristics, whatever name you called it, whatever configurations, networking, storage, but come up with a bigger virtual machine with twice as much, CPU and memory, right? So this is obviously a beneficial, when you think about virtual machines, it's kind of the true cloud economies, right? When you want it, you can scale up. When you don't want it, you can scale down, all in a certified set of SKUs. So, and then all the other benefits that you get from virtual machines applies here. You can declaratively create this through your own scripts running on whatever language of choice that you have, and basically just spin up your entire landscape as you need it. So just a quick tour on this one. So let me get back to my slides. So that's on M series. As I mentioned, this is one part of our dual strategy. Virtual machines will continue to get bigger. Today it's up to 4 terabytes. As we kind of push our Hyper-V virtualization technology, we'll go up to 6, probably more, right? Now that's not enough for many, many customers. So let me do a poll here. Let me kind of throw some number and see how many of you are running less than 4 terabytes from a HANA database point of view, okay? How many of you are running less than 6? Less than 8? I want to ask the largest. What's the largest in the room here? Just speak up. 10? 12? This guy keeps going. 20? 40? 60? Not quite. So what is it? Maybe you can 48. Okay. So you can see, look, this is an in-memory database system. You put the entire data in memory, so you don't want to be, you don't want to be hitting the ceiling soon, right? So this is why our second part of the strategy is focused on large instances. And the key here is whenever you're thinking about making a choice of infrastructure, you want to make sure you have the headroom, right? What you see in this, nicely decorated slide is the steps to getting to 20 terabytes, the different SKUs that we have, right? You don't have to go buy a 20 terabyte machine size in the cloud. You can get there incrementally, and you have the capabilities that I showed in the virtual machine and the large instances to allow you that incremental journey, right? Maybe you're greenfield, you're just starting the SAP HANA journey. Yeah, you can start in a 1 terabyte SKU. In a few months, maybe you realize you need a 2 terabyte SKU, no problem, we got it, right? So it is important, just as important it is for that ultimate headroom, it is also important to know that you have these interim options. That is the whole point of the slide, right? On the x-axis, you have the memory going up to 20 terabytes. On the y-axis, the cores up to almost 1,000 virtual CPUs, right? Now, if you map that up in the scale-out construct, so that is a single machine. This is multi-node scale-out configurations for OLAP, right? Your BW HANA is typically multi-node. You can go up to 60 terabytes, right? In terms of the memory, right? Because you can essentially have, N+2 configuration for a 20 terabyte machine. And in terms of processors, if you ever need this, 5,760 virtual CPUs, right? So just tremendous power, right? So what I would like to say to you is, forget about, this is the promise of the cloud, forget about headroom, right? We will take care of it, right? We bet on Azure, and we'll make sure that we push the infrastructure as far as it can go. So if you contrast the capability that Azure has and put competition in light here, right? So this is what Amazon allows you. They go up to 32 terabytes, and in terms of CPUs, this is on the scale up and the scale out. So fairly sizable, but still limited, right? Again, remember the point that I made about headroom, right? You don't want to get to that 4 terabytes and then find out like, oh, I have to basically now switch to a different provider. It'd be disastrous if you're running your line of business application, right? And then Google, which I missed, I think you'll see a small dot. And obviously, it's all a point in time, right? Every cloud provider is going to invest in this. The key point is we have that robust roadmap, right? We have a 20 terabyte, which I'll show you, running today, right? And we've got customers, ready to go live. Large instances based on Broadwell, the latest and greatest that you have available in the market, certified for HANA, Intel 8890 V4, purpose-built. Every single thing about these SKUs are purpose-built for SAP HANA. They come before you even touch it, it's SAP HANA TDA certified, right? Storage, networking, every single thing is fine-tuned for HANA and HANA alone. So you don't have to worry about, oh, you get the machine and then you get your tuning happen, right? No issues here. 99.99% availability, the highest in the industry for mission critical workloads. You have to buy 2 of them. We basically, just like virtual machine sizes, we have the similar type of guarantees, right? And we also support DR, right? If you want like US East, US West, in Dublin, Amsterdam, Sydney, Melbourne, we've got that too. In fact, most of our HANA production customers today have that configuration because nobody wants their mission critical applications to go down. We also have, and I'll demonstrate this, live consistent backups, full backups that you can just take it like 2 seconds, right? It's not an incremental backup, it's a full backup because it is a purpose-built storage infrastructure for HANA. We have the ability and the headroom in the infrastructure to be able to give you full backups, sometimes multiple times a day, for weeks, right? So again, something that you would demand for your mission critical infrastructure. When somebody makes a mistake, you don't want to be like thinking about, oh, I don't have space, I didn't take backup. The point where you are looking to restore is the most critical point of, testing your backup infrastructure. So let me, and the last point that I would make, and then I'll quickly show you a demonstration. You can use SUSE, you can use Red Hat, it doesn't really matter. It's certified for both. We have support from both distribution vendors to kind of have a great experience with these purpose-built large instances. One point that I will demonstrate here, I want this as a setup slide. How are we able to get full backups in seconds? Well, the magic behind the scenes is we, independent of what the customer is doing at the application layer, at the SAP layer, the infrastructure is automatically mirroring your data that you're using in a particular location to the DR mirrored location. So that's the first thing, right? We are basically doing physical level block replication between two sites. It's asynchronous, but it's perfect for DR. In addition, we also allow customers to configure backups at whatever frequency they want, right? So full backups, both log and data, and this is from a HA point of view, right? In addition to that, there is another level of protection that you can do, which is you can pipe them all to Azure storage, right? And Azure provides 3 temperatures of storage: hot, cold, and really cold archival. And you can kind of take the log backups there too. So you have multiple layers of protection that gives you kind of the most guarantees that anyone can provide in terms of a HANA protection system. All right, so let me kind of jump to showcasing how this works. So let me jump to the first thing I want to show. As you said, some of you were asking, so it's real. So this is basically, let me zoom in here, a 16 terabyte machine, and I'll show you a 20 terabyte machine as well. And you can see here, this is the total physical memory, 16 terabytes. And if you go down below, it shows this one is a 16 socket configuration, and it has 768. Pardon my drawing, but basically you get the point. This is the gigantic machine configured, ready to go for HANA. In fact, it already has the HANA replication script. So that is exactly what I want to kind of highlight. So what I'm going to show you is how fast it takes to do a full log backup. So I've got HANA configured here. I'm going to just run this Perl script, which is essentially kind of going and taking the entire database backup. And you'll see, just watch how long it takes. So I started the script, that's it. I don't know if you guys have seen, I've been in the database industry for a while, but a full backup definitely takes hours in many cases, right? So this is it. Unfortunately, there's no magic here, it's just the sheer power of the infrastructure. And if you look here, I'll kind of run through another script that shows kind of the details. And you'll see all the volumes that are being snapshotted, the policies. This is anyone running HANA in production is going to require this sort of capability. And it's many, both log backups and data backups. And then the last thing that I would do here, so while this is running, this is basically the listing the database backups is taking longer than the actual backup, right? So this is, I'm just doing a enumeration of how many backups I've got, right? So there you go. And I can actually show you the directory as well. And you can see, again, just about the same time as I do ALS. All right, so the last thing I want to show you is the HANA Studio. This is a 20 terabyte machine. So if I zoom again, I want to show your attention here. 19 point something, and actually the physical memory down below shows you even more, right? So 20 terabytes, so actual running system with HANA Studio hooked up, right? So there's a Windows client in front. We talked about this in Jason's keynote. And if you see this, if I run this query, I want to kind of again take your attention here. 100 billion rows. How many of you have 100 billion rows? I know this is a demo, but I just wanted to kind of, for folks who didn't see this in the keynote, I'm going to run a query against this and see how long it will take. 100 billion rows, obviously, in fact, data loading takes longer than querying this infrastructure, right? All right, so now let me kind of run a script and see. I ran this a few times, but again, 1.6 seconds right here. So again, sheer speed in terms of infrastructure. So yeah, it's basically, and you can see, sorry, I think I'm pointing to the right. So right here. Right here. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh. There we go. This is my scribbles, if you will. So you get the point. It takes me more time to kind of figure out this thing than the query running it. But anyway, so the key point here is again headroom, purpose built for HANA, ready to go for your mission critical system. So don't worry about moving to cloud and giving up on this control. Yes.
Who installs the
SAP HANA, great question. So the question is who installs SAP HANA? As you guys know, if you're using SAP HANA, even the installation is certified. So in this case, obviously we installed it. We have certified folks. But in a customer's case, they would have to go through an installation. But we have all the best practices documented in our websites, and we have a great partner ecosystem, including Accenture, one of our best partners, who are ready to go on these systems to be able to kind of go do this. So we have a vibrant partner ecosystem that is trained and ready to go on this. So or you can do it yourself if you have a good HANA certified set of folks in your company.
Do you have a migration path from on-prem to Azure?
The question is, do we have a migration path from on-prem to Azure specifically for HANA? We leverage the resources that SAP itself is providing here because we are an infrastructure provider, but our partner ecosystem does have it. A lot of the partners, the work that they're doing is bringing on-prem customers from SAP on Oracle or DB2 or SQL, Netweaver stack to HANA, right? This is kind of the migration story that's happening. And yeah, we've seen hundreds of customers go through that journey, and you will hear Dan talk about their journey. Absolutely, these materials, playbooks are available. It's more than just that, right? Every customer is different here, every installation is different here. But the know-how and the expertise is available both in the infrastructure land as well as the partner ecosystem. So absolutely. All right, so let me kind of jump back to slides, and I don't want to steal Dan's thunder here. Show the demo. Couple more slides, and then I'll hand out to Dan. So express route, obviously when you're thinking about having your mission critical system run on Azure, super critical to have a high bandwidth connectivity to the Azure data center of your choice. Express route as our premier solution here gives you the high bandwidth, low latency connectivity across the world. We have two other options, site to site and point to site. These are other options for your developers, right? If you want to get started dev test, but express route is the recommended configuration. We've got 34 express route locations. You see that pretty much wherever Azure is. And we've got also the capability that I talked about with M series and large instances, pretty much where your needs are. So you can see the global availability there. M series is being rolled out. It's available in US, the US regions, but it's going to be available shortly in the non-US regions. So. And then, obviously from a certification point of view, we have great docs that talk about which virtual machine sizes are certified for what SAP products, and then, both for the Netweaver stack and the HANA stack. And then, the support of operating systems there. With that, I'll hand back to Naga. He's going to quickly provision a couple of slides on the HANA, and then, we'll hand over to Dan.
Thanks, Madan. So just that was fantastic. On the infrastructure side, we covered the full breadth of it from compute, storage, network for your entire HANA solution. I just wanted to give a customer perspective on how customers are approaching HANA. We know that from a lot of you are looking at S/4HANA as sort of the destination to get to, but there are a couple of different steps. There is a learning path that people take. We see customers starting with BW because it's sort of a non-real-time reporting and learning HANA skills through that, and then from there, or you take a sidecar approach, take a certain module like APO or some of these modules. And we also see people going to Business Suite on HANA first, and then transform it to S/4HANA. This gives you an ability for your end users to not change any of their business processes, but just change the database. It's sort of a step process. And then lastly, if we also see customers directly going to S/4HANA. Obviously, you have to take care of your functional approach there in terms of the business processes. It does require some training for your end users because it's a new way of doing things. I'll zip through the slides here quick. Madan talked about our ecosystem of partners. So we have all the big SIs, global as well as regional SIs, and we keep adding more. And we've been working to add more of the partners and bringing them on board. Just a couple of quick customer case studies. So just wanted to highlight them before we bring in Dan here. We will go in depth on the Accenture story. Coates is a customer that it's 250-year-old. It's started in the Industrial Revolution. And this is a fact that I didn't know. Most of you are probably coffee drinkers, but I don't know how many of you drink tea. I'm a tea person. And apparently the thread that's used in the tea bags in a week, 1 billion of those threads are used, and those are from Coates. So that's the level of scale of manufacturing that they are doing. So they have 60 plus sites. They have 180 plus servers. All of that they migrated, and they were running on Oracle, and they wanted to move to HANA to boost performance. They did that under 3 months over to Azure. This is a great success story from from the customer point of view, because they now suddenly it's one thing to have the database speed, but what does it mean for the business results? They're able to do just-in-time order requests. They are able to do real-time shipping status and things like that. Another story here is Tate & Lyle. So they are, if you take any kind of sweeteners, Splenda and things like that, Tate & Lyle is producing those ingredients. So they are a big company in terms of $3 billion in terms of UK, British pound revenues. They used to have like 3 SAP instances, ECC, and they wanted to consolidate into one big one from a central financial reporting. And they used to run it in a managed hosting center, and they were running out of headroom. And they realized this is not going to scale, this is not going to be set up for my future growth. And they talked to multiple providers, and they realized Azure has the best headroom to go with the business growth. So they're running on HANA large instances. So they also run reports with SAP and 26 other non-SAP sources, which is probably very common for most of your reporting needs. And so suddenly they are able to spin up systems faster, as well as speed up their reporting there. With that, those are just 2 examples that I pointed out, but there are more. If you go to our site, you can find a lot of case studies. And then with that, I'll bring up Dan, the much-awaited session, to talk about how they're handling their BW on HANA journey.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It sounds like, can everyone hear me? Yep. All right. I was going to circle things during my presentation, but after Madhan's demonstration there, I'm not going to do that. So make sure I'm moving forward. As I was mentioning, we run Accenture. We run our critical components of our business on HANA, on Azure. So I'd just like to go through that story with you today. A little bit more on the business side of things. So I work for our internal IT department at Accenture. So I'm going to be speaking here more as a customer than all the consultants you might know about within Accenture. But it's been an exciting story with a lot of value. And what I want to take you through today is give you a little bit of context on Accenture, and then to talk about why we needed to do this and what was the value. Because we've been running on it for 7-8 months now. It's been a critical success at the C-level down, and in this particular instance, it's at the CFO level. And before I go into that, I just wanted to say something, that some of our C-level folks are saying, well, gee, do I want to get stuff into the cloud? Is it out there? Is it secure? And there's constraints around that. I think we've proven through some of our implementation stuff and the business side is, it is more secure, it is faster, it is all the things that you have on premise, not to mention cheaper. All right, why don't we talk just a little bit about Accenture. Today we're a professional services company. We've got almost $33 billion in revenue. We're in a whole bunch of countries, 400,000 employees. So we're pretty big. And I would say the bigger thing is we're growing. We're changing our business. And that's a lot of the reason why, as we look to the roadmap to the future, the next 5 to 10 years, we know we need to be able to scale and move faster. Some quick facts on us. We are cloud first, right? We think that way internally. We're 80% in the cloud. It's proven its benefits in terms of savings, speed, scale. And the HANA on Azure is just, one more play in that space. All right, let me give you a little context on SAP. So how many people here run on SAP today? Okay, a lot, everybody. This is, so this is our SAP sort of background and context. And I'll go counterclockwise starting at the top there. We've got about, 470 company codes, right? If you're an SAP finance person, you know that one. We've got about 300 integrating systems. We only have a single instance of SAP. So all of our business, all of our master data, all of the things we push out, whether it's payroll, HR systems, sales systems, all of that comes from SAP. Currently, we were on ECC 6. We went to Suite on HANA, which is running great. And we're moving to S4. Currently, that's on-premise, because at the time we did it, just didn't have the scale. It was a little while ago. And then BW, we run that we're on version 7.4, and 7.5, excuse me, and we're on HANA on Azure. And then we use, module-wise, we pretty much use finance and HR all the way down to the bottom, and you can see some other things there, GRC, GTS, other components that we leverage. So we are, we're a Microsoft and SAP shop. And then from a business perspective, as it relates to putting BW HANA on Azure, our business needs to close pretty fast, right? I think we all talk about that if you're a finance person. We close, the items that are on BW on HANA on Azure are all of our external management reporting, anything that goes to an analyst, all of our external reporting, all of our management reporting or internal reporting is on BW on HANA on Azure, and all of our forecasting. So really the core of how we run the business financially and how we speak to it financially, externally, is in this. So to us, this is a part of our mission critical processes. So as you can see there, we've got about a 2-day, it says 2 to 3, but it's a 2-day internal reporting thing to get numbers out to our management team throughout the globe. So we get that out in 2 days. And then obviously, for the controllership and, putting all the journal entries and moving stuff around and doing intercompany and all that stuff we do in the financial space, that's through day 5. And by going to HANA on Azure, you'll see in a couple slides, really no constraints. So at the CFO level of our business, we talked about some of the risk inherent in this, and our CFO thought this was a good position to move forward into the future. So what were we looking to do? You see the terms on the left-hand side and a little bit of consultant speak there, but I'll show you this when we get to the value. But we started out with our business and said, what do we need to do to run our business 5 to 10 years from now? It's running great on SAP, it's running great on-premise, not a lot of technical constraints, maybe in the analytics space and things like that, but it wouldn't run our business in the future in terms of we're getting more diverse businesses, more employees. So that's sort of the mindset in terms of where we needed to go in a business. So we needed to have greater agility. We needed to do stuff, faster at a moment's notice. We probably reorg our company twice a year, move major sets of businesses around. We're a big company, fairly complex. User experience. Everything's really about the user experience as you think about it in terms of speed, how fast things are going. They want a consumer-based experience. Now, there's the SAP part, a little clunky, but then there's the how fast does it go, right? Close headroom, again, just can we grow and get that, have the ability to close just as fast, if not faster. Security, major play. I mean, every headline in the news today is around security. There's security of the architecture, there's security of the software, staying current, and that was a big concern. Stability. So it's one thing to talk about sort of the, hey, we want to get better, faster, and all that stuff, but is it stable? Can it really run our business? I'll talk about, how being on Azure has helped us do that. And then we want a roadmap to the future. We don't want to be constrained. We never want to be sort of into a corner or we have to do something. So what do? We went onto the Azure cloud. We migrated the database. I think that was a question here before, using some of our best practices. We got up to Unicode. We upgraded to 7.5 and then on BPC because we do our consolidations, as I mentioned on this. And then we optimized. I won't talk about the second half of that, but really we took our on-prem and we upgraded it, put it on HANA, put it on Azure, and I don't mention this specifically, it was in exactly 6 months. And the reason I know that is because our fiscal year starts on September 1st, and we went live in March, which is our mid-year release. And while we were doing this, we also put some pretty significant capability in. So I think what that attests to is the migration itself is smooth. SAP works, right? I don't think anybody's too concerned about that. SAP worked. The migration to Azure was quite smooth. And because of that, we were able to do some other capabilities around reporting. So the big item, this is what I hope to convey here today. What was the value? So these are real numbers, real outcomes. I'm an IT guy presenting this, but this is from a business point of view as they look at it and they talk to their customers and their sponsors within our company. So agility, I think this one goes without saying. You move into the cloud, you can scale a lot faster, right? 5-week reduction time. User experience, we had a 70% improvement in reporting. So, click on the item to run it, and it goes faster. You're saying, well, why only 70%? We when we were on the old database, we were highly optimized, right? We didn't have a constraint. So this is after being highly optimized, right? Full data archiving, full compression, full code optimization. This is on top of that as we went through it. Close headroom, you can see there the performance improvements, close to 40%. And then as far as pushing out reports, we use like broadcasting. We had a 70% improvement of that as far as just pushing out reports, getting it out there quicker around that. Security. If you're on old versions of BW, you might experience, if you do any scanning with like a Qualys or whatever your security department does, if you're on old versions of BW or you're on old hardware that can't be upgraded, if you're on a BIA, we were on a BIA solution, so it was fast, it was somewhat in memory, but old hardware, old operating systems, old everything, vulnerabilities, not good. So got all that current, right? We weren't behind, but we got it current, which was great. Production stability. This, full disclosure, when we hit peak periods, and when I say peak periods, once or twice a year, when the numbers come out, your CFO's looking at it, say, hey, why is this like this or this like this? Once or twice a year, we would run into boom, out of capacity, out of scale. Not bring the system down or anything like that. Now we've got all the headroom that we need, but it's not just the headroom, is that it works better when they're running all the reports, so it's great. And certainly last but not least, and Mahan showed this, we've got a roadmap. We've got a roadmap that we can do BW more easily and upgrade and stay current, because there are more current versions. And then you saw the architecture view of it that you can expand and adopt fairly easily. And we've already done that, and it's been fantastic. So that's the big value story. So where are we going to go next? So as I mentioned in the beginning, we are cloud first. Get everything in the cloud, leverage its benefits of scale, performance, security, all of the above. So what we're going to do next is we've got, as I mentioned, we've got BW HANA on Azure, working well, 2 quarters flawless through it, including our year end, which just happened. Now what we're doing is we're actually looking to go on to the M series, which Madhan talked about. We're looking to get our S4 HANA in the cloud. So first we're going to upgrade to S4 HANA. We're looking to do that in March. We're going on version 1610, if you're familiar with that. It's the enterprise version versus the simple finance version. So we're going to put that, we're going to upgrade that, and we're migrating. We're not doing greenfield. We're migrating, so we're taking ECC, or actually it's Suite on HANA right now, Suite on HANA to S4. And we'll do that in March, and then we're testing everything out on the M series right now, and then move on to that. So that's all I have for you today. I think we're open for questions. And everything I said there?
Yes, we will open it up for Q&A. So if you could go to the mic, then we could, because the audio is being recorded.
Thanks for the presentation. That was awesome. My question is the SAP is offering a cloud solutions as well itself. So they are the software provider. I saw your comparison presentation with the AWS, Microsoft. That will be awesome to see what SAP cannot do. And what would I choose Microsoft to go for it? It's like, to me, it's trying to get a OneDrive and put it on to maybe AWS to run it. Who could be able to run better than Microsoft on OneDrive?
So is your question specifically around HANA Enterprise Cloud or the S4 HANA Cloud, or both?
Yeah, HANA. I mean, the SAP also make the changes, putting new customers on HANA database. Used to be an SQL. So they make that decisions very short.
So if you noticed on the HANA Enterprise Cloud, so I'll address that first and probably talk about the S4. SAP has announced a multi-cloud strategy for their infrastructure as well, and so they're working with us and other cloud providers. So HANA Enterprise Cloud, we have customers who might want to work with HANA Enterprise Cloud, but then they say we want Azure as well, because the rest of our workloads are sort of a data pool. If you're running all your other enterprise applications on Azure, you want your SAP as well on that. Now on the piece about S4 HANA Cloud, that I think it's a decision based on your needs, because when you come to Azure, you bring your own license and bring your own implementation. And most of you I know that have custom implementations with years and worth of business processes that you may not be able to immediately go to a hosted model. But that's something you should evaluate. That's my initial understanding. I don't know if Dan, if you had any, based on your evaluation, if you had any points. Yeah, Madan?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can add. So look, this journey will have many entry points for many customers, right? If you think about, I think we mentioned this even in the keynote, about 60% of the data that you have for the SAP systems are not based on the SAP's controlled data sets, right? You've got it in Excel, you've got it in some other databases. So the landscapes are pretty complex, right? If you're doing greenfield, obviously you can look at all cloud providers, including SAP, who have their own cloud, which would be backed by Azure infrastructure as well as other infrastructure. So you could choose that entry point. But for most customers that what we are seeing that are picking Azure, they are already in the business of managing this application. They are looking to get not just the SAP vertical value, but also the Halo landscapes, right? You bought the line of business, the mission critical application running at the center, but then you're doing ML, you're doing Power BI, you're doing some IoT stuff. It's not everything SAP. You have a lot attached that is driving, ingesting data as well as, processing the exhaust, right? SAP's HEC offering, if you go talk to them, they would say like, look, they are focused on that specific SAP stack and making it work well. And there is a set of customers who would like that and they would choose that, and that's great. But for the customers who are saying like, look, I also have a bunch of non-SAP data that needs to coexist, that's where I think Azure as a cloud provider would give you that opportunity, right? And this is why SAP itself for HEC is working on having the cloud providers provide an infrastructure option, because they can focus on providing the managed services and not as much worry about the infrastructure, right? Because a lot of folks would want, if you are using US East, you want all your data and the surrounding apps to be closer to US East as opposed to going over the Atlantic to kind of talk to the SAP database, right? It's not going to be possible. So many entry points, as Naga said, it's really what you want to achieve, from your application. And as Dan pointed out, what outcomes are you looking for, right? What business transformation are you looking for? And then see, which of these options best suits your needs, right?
Yeah, and maybe I'll just add to that. We certainly did look at HEC, and really sort of 2 or 3 things that drove us to Azure were they at the time could not handle BW. They couldn't handle things beyond the ECC stuff. 2, I think that Madhan brought up is non-SAP stuff always comes into play. And then 3rd is just, frankly, the scale that Azure works at, right? The resiliency, the backup, the speed across the board, right? Is probably the 3 main reasons we chose it.
Yep.
Great.
Did I answer your question? Thanks. Any other questions? Yeah,
if you
please.
could go to the mic.
There's one here.
What reporting front-end clients are you using for your BW environments?
We use mostly BEX with a little bit of BI.
Power BI.
Power BI.
Yeah.
Yes, please. It's being recorded, so I appreciate that.
Well, I want to thank you for the presentation. It was very eye-opening. But Dan, can you explain the value proposition a little bit? You said that your mindset is cloud first, and that this endeavor was to drive down costs. So maybe you can explain a little bit about where the cost savings come from?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with sort of the main business driver, and then I'll go to cost. Is that okay? So the main business driver is really to get, for us, was we're growing at a large pace, as you saw up there. We're getting more diverse businesses and more complexity, and we needed to be, just simpler, the ability to scale, the ability to get out there, the ability to do it quicker. On the cost side, we saved in terms of storage, the compression that came down by going to HANA and getting out there, our reliability, our support around that for these peak periods. There's sort of the hidden cost of, you start to hit the peaks and stuff like that, and it's expensive to maintain. So I'd say on those 2 things is where we save cost.
Yeah, the one thing I would add to your question is, with the journey that Dan and team went, you're basically going through 2 parallel journeys, right? You're moving to HANA, because if you have an existing green, like brownfield application, you have to get there at some point. And then you're also wanting to move to cloud, right? As Accenture CIO did, a lot of companies are really kind of questioning themselves and do I need to build? This is a great refresh point. It's a, inflection point for me to really think and say, do I want to build another data center, expand capacity, get all this capital expenditure involved, or I want to kind of embrace cloud and become more agile. And these 2 journeys can be completely independent. You can decide to say, I'm going to go on-prem on HANA and then move, but it's a great opportunity to do them together, and as proven by some of the biggest implementation we are seeing today.
Great. Thanks for all the questions. So with that, I will have a couple of slides to close out. Are there more? Okay.
Yep.
One more question.
Yeah, please.
You said that you have the possibility to scale up and scale down. But I also understood in the first slide that there is a 1 to 3 year commitment. So how does that work? Because if I want to scale down and I have a 3-year commitment, then...
Yeah, I can take that. So there's different landscapes. So if you think about any kind of SAP landscape, you've got, the performance, the dev test, the pre-prod, the production, and so on and so forth. Mission critical application, I haven't seen a single customer say, I want to turn it down, right? You're going to, in fact, you want to go after kind of the most stable, permanent, resilient infrastructure, right? Perfect for, in those cases, they're actually asking us to say, I want to commit for as much time as possible because I'm not moving. If you got the headroom, you got it, right? Basically, I'm going to run on this. I'm going to continue to grow in the existing infrastructure. Perfect for that. Now, if you're doing a whole bunch of development on HANA, right? S4 is relatively new, even BW, there's a lot of newness. And that's when I think the dev test, spin up, spin down infrastructure comes in handy, right? When you're doing application development or even when you're going through the migration steps, you're going to do a lot of trial and error to figure out what's the right sizing for you, what's the right set of playbooks. I mean, Dan and team went through this. I mean, if you look at the slide that they went through, we all are intimately familiar with the schedule. There were multiple test stages and performance checkups before, Dan and team went live, right? So that's when I think some of the on-demand infrastructure would be helpful, because you're going to do a lot of learning before you get and commit to saying, okay, I've got the right setup. In fact, even after we go live, in Dan's case, every month close, we are learning, right, new things, and you would kind of make changes. So it's great infrastructure, the spin up, spin down virtual machine infrastructure for flighting things, flighting your learnings and say, this is work out better or worse. And then once you mature it, you basically run on a infrastructure that requires longer commitment.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I'll leave the commercial and the contractual stuff to you, but I think that was well said in terms of, we have 8 environments: dev, test, stage, production, financial integration test, performance test, and an N+1, right, as you're working through it. Add up all your environments, because if you just look at production, and I agree, most of this stuff is more mission critical kind of stuff. Add up all the environments, production's about this big, and all the other environments are this big. So if you can go up and down on that cost based on how you develop things, that's where you can save money.
Good. Any more questions? Don't be shy.
And, oh, go ahead.
I'll ask another question. Going to HANA and going into Azure, how has that changed your archiving strategy?
Interesting question. On the BW side, really hasn't changed anything so far. So we're pretty archiving, crazy or offloading, I would say too, when you get on the BW side, right? You pull stuff off. So on the BW side, hasn't changed us all. On the ECC Suite on HANA S4 side of things, we're just getting into that right now in terms of will the archiving be the same? But if your question is from a cost standpoint, we're going to archive at the same pace. We pretty much archive everything, all of our, let's say 80% of our major items we archive to stay within the 10-year, all the financial rules that we have out there. So I don't see it changing that much. We've always been aggressive. We're a $30 billion company. We have like a 2 terabyte database. And I mentioned somebody had a 60. I mean, we archive, we compress, we purge nonstop. Like it's literally a weekly thing that we have in place. So I don't see us changing that much, but we're highly optimized already.
Any more questions?
Any more?
All right. Thank you for all the questions, and thanks, Dan. It's been fantastic. I'll go through a couple of slides to close out, and then.
Thank you.
All right. So, folks, just to kind of wrap this up, you heard from Madan on the infrastructure and Dan from real world case study there. Why Azure for SAP workload? We look at it at 3 things, right? You want a provider that has a deep partnership with SAP over many, many years, over many installations, and with SQL Server, we have got that. And similarly, SAP itself is betting on Azure with success factors that runs on Azure, right? Azure has got you covered on both Netweaver and HANA for your full roadmap. Lastly, we have a big, not only ecosystem of partners, we have in-house expertise. So we have SAP specialist experts around the globe that we have to work with you. So you saw the infrastructure, you can scale up and scale out. So with VMs and purpose-built instances. And lastly, from an Azure perspective, it's enterprise proven. You heard about our trust and compliance. You got 52 compliance certifications. And you have your surround strategy in terms of bringing data from other sources of IoT or Hadoop or big data, any of those sources. So those are a few points that I wanted to leave you with. And with that, there are a couple of call to actions. So we do have a cloud quick assessment and an architectural design session that we can engage with you. So come and talk to us at the SAP booth in the expo hall, or we have few folks from the team here. So we go through taking your input, we'll look at your sizing, we do a one-day session delivery, and then lastly kind of give you a ROI analysis on that. And one other aspect is we have had customers ask about HANA and SAP Cloud Appliance Library, so you have that built in as well. So Azure is, if you go to the Cloud Appliance Library and look for Azure, you can one-click deploy some of these templates for your dev test purposes. And finally, if you have if you need more information, you can come and talk to us after the presentation, but azure.com/SAP is your one destination to go get any information. So you can also send us email there and things like that. So lastly, please evaluate this session. So we value your feedback. So thank you for your time. It's been great to have you all here, and have a good afternoon here.